the Board of Education meeting for Monday, March 27th. If everyone would rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have several board members gone for various reasons, so please let the record show we have Ryan Osmus, Tracy Rankin, Tammy West, and Lisa Killian present for the meeting. And we need a motion for the adoption of the agenda, including the supplemental personnel report. We have an updated one in our green folders, I believe.
I make a motion. I'll second.
Okay, motion by Tammy and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 4-0. And Jeff had to leave town and did not have a chance to look over the bills, so I went in this afternoon, looked them over, and everything was satisfactory. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the bills for this month.
Second.
All right, a motion by Lisa, second by Ryan. All in favor? 4-0. All right, we have a couple special presentations. First off, we have Jennifer Hendricks. Jennifer recently joined a large group of exceptional educators within USD 443 as she was named a Kansas Master Teacher. Jenny is the 28th USD 443 teacher to earn this distinguished award. She began teaching physics at Dodge City High School in 2014. Since then, the number of students taking physics at the high school has increased nearly 75%. Wow. The 2017 Master Teachers are honored on Master Teacher Day on April 5th at Emporia State University. Emporia State established the Kansas Master Teacher Awards in 1954. The awards are presented annually to teachers who have served the profession long and well and who also typify the outstanding qualities of earnest and conscientious teachers. Congratulations, Jenny.
She's
all ready to go.
You got her tracksuit, she's going to run.
But then I got my back to them.
It's all right. We'll get out of the picture. Yes, please.
Okay, next award we have Mr. Kelly Nedler. At the Kansas Music Education Association Conference recently, Kelly Nedler received the 2017 National Federation of High Schools Outstanding Music Education Award. Kelly has served as the Dodge City High School choral music director, musical director, department chair, and PLC facilitator since 2004. In addition, Kelly has served as the MC at Dodge City High School Pep Assemblies since 2004. Kelly has been actively engaged for the past several years in leadership roles with the Kansas Music Educators Association. He was also the color analyst for the Voice of the Red Demons for 10 years. He's the announcer for football, baseball, basketball, and soccer for both Dodge City High School and Dodge City Middle School, and the auditorium light and sound expert. Congratulations, Kelly.
Shift to the right.
Okay.
Roller skates.
And now we get to be treated with a special presentation by the Dodge City High School Madrigals.
We thought that since tonight we had the opportunity to be here for a music reason, we thought that we'd bring the Madrigals along. It's contest time. We thought we'd get you all in the mood for that. This is Who's That Knocking?
Who's that knocking, knocking at my door? Who's that knocking, knocking at my door? Somebody's knocking, is it foe, is it friend? Who's that knocking, should I let him in? Who's that knocking, knocking? Who's that knocking? Who's that knocking? Who's that knocking? Somebody's knocking, somebody's knocking. Who's that knocking, should I let him in? The devil's sneaking, he puts on a good show. He puts on a show, and you'll never know. This your intentions, only place where to gain. He knows where you live, and he knows your name. Who's that knocking, knocking at my door? Who's that knocking? Who's that knocking? Who's that knocking? Somebody's knocking, somebody's knocking. Who's that knocking? Should I let him in? Look out the window, who do you see? I see a stranger looking back at me, just like a charmer will say hello. He'll take your hand and never let you go, never let you go. Who's that knocking? Who's that knocking, knocking at my door? Who's that knocking? Who's that knocking? Who's that knocking? Somebody's knocking, somebody's knocking. Who's that knocking? Should I let him in? Standing there, is that him in disguise? Oh, standing there, waiting with a surprise. Oh, standing there, with a grin and a smile. Oh, standing there, you better stay safe inside. Tell me who's that knocking? Who's that knocking? 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 I know someone's knocking. Someone's knocking. Who's that knocking? Knocking. Who's that knocking? Who's that knocking? Who's that knocking? Somebody's knocking. Somebody's knocking. Who's that knocking? Should I let him in? Tell me who's that knocking? Knocking. Who's that knocking? Who's that knocking? Who's that knocking? Somebody's knocking. Somebody's knocking. Who's that knocking? Should I let him in? Who's that knocking? Should I let him in? Should I let him in? Who's that knocking? Tell me someone's knocking. Tell me, should I let him in?
Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Thank you.
This choir sang at Branson last weekend at the Legends show down there, and this is one of the songs they sang. So
Very
thank you
nice.
for letting us sing tonight.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, I'll send it to you because I'm gonna show my kids. My daughters are into music, so yeah. Yeah, I'll send it to you. What? I don't think I have your phone number.
I was supposed to look to Jackie to see if the high school Stuco person is here. Are you, Kelly?
Yes.
Yep, okay, good
There
deal.
she is.
Come on up. Sorry you have to follow that, but.
I would try to sing my best. I'm just kidding. Hello and good evening. My name is Kelly Lara, and I am Vice President at the Student Council at Dodge City High School. On April 7th, we will be holding our elections for our new positions, which include President, Vice President, Secretary, Treasurer, and Public Relations Officer. On April 28th is our next meeting, in which we would go over back-to-school events. Specifically one that we have in mind, in which it will take place at the Dodge City pool, in which we will bring students in from 8 to 10 o'clock. And our plan is to encourage students to look at the different lists of activities and clubs that they can join and the days and times they can sign up. And hopefully we can encourage them to join such activities. I think it would be a good idea as an opening, especially for freshmen, since it could be like a scary area to be in high school, not know what to do, and hopefully they can make some friends or like join new things that they never tried before. As of right now, we're looking for a sponsor, and hopefully we will bring the sponsor up to you guys before the end of this year. That'll be all. Thank you.
Thank you. You did a good job. Thank you. All right, next up, Dodge City Middle School, Camilla.
Unfortunately, Camilla wasn't able to be here, but I'll do my best to speak for her.
Okay.
Good evening. I am Alondra Valle from the DCMS Student Council. First of all, in music, DCMS had the privilege of hosting a middle school music festival this year. Over 1,300 students that participated in bands, orchestras, and choirs from across Western Kansas came to perform. DCMS was able to have full 7th and 8th grade bands, orchestras, and choirs perform, as well as several solos and small ensembles. We also had our student musicians perform in our orchestra concerts and at Bandorama. National Junior Honor Society held a fundraiser for Pennies for Patients. They collected from March 1st to March 9th. Student Council was very busy during February hosting our Sweetheart Dance and running the food drive. We are pleased that the school has come together to raise food for the Manor House. The students and staff donated over 2,000 pounds of food and supplies to the Manor House. Our next plans for Stuco, in the month of April, we have our final dance of the school year and on April 21st, and we will also spend that same afternoon beautifying our school grounds on Arbor Day.
Great.
And that is all I have.
You did a fine job. Thank you. And it looks like Carlos is here.
Like she said, I am Carlos Terran from Comanche Middle School. I am the Stuco president. And I just wanted to share a little experience I had last Thursday. It's just like a little funny one. I was just like chit-chatting in the auditorium. I'm just hanging out with my friends. And all of a sudden, I hear my name called by a teacher. I'm just like, and I guess she wanted me to sing and dance with another person to like not have kids bored, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I don't want to do this. I do not want to do this. I was just freaking out. And so I danced and sang.
Way to go.
That was a teacher. It was a teacher. Only at home with my mom. Last month we held a black and white dance. It was well attended and everyone had a great time. Like it was really cool. The money that was earned through that dance was donated to a family in need that was going on back then. Miranda Burns talked to us about chemo bags. Chemo bags are bags full of items that chemo patients may need during their treatment, such as chapstick, blankets, socks, and other stuff to keep them warm. Stuco purchased and donated the items to fill the chemo bags. We did have a couple of meetings for Relay for Life. Relay for Life is putting together a team for this year's Relay for Life walk. There was a garage sale held at CMS over spring break to help fund the relay. We will be having some sort of 8th grade send-off at the end of the year, possibly a dodgeball tournament since all the 8th graders love dodgeball. And we might also have a dance on April 28th. We still need to talk about that. And it will be neon themed, and all the student is invited. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Carlos. All right, recognition of visitors. Persons may present ideas or concerns regarding USD 443 schools. No action will be taken by the board at this meeting. Personalities and behavior of employees are not to be presented during this period, but are to be reported to the employee's immediate supervisor. The president shall determine the amount of time to be spent for citizen participation. If you'd like to address the board, please approach the podium at this time. See nobody, we'll move ahead. Next up, we have the consent agenda. That includes the approval of personnel, including the supplemental personnel report, the approval of minutes for the February 27th and March 3rd board meetings, approval of migrant education summer services grant application, approval of the renewal of Memorial Stadium scoreboard sponsorship for DCCC, and the approval of Spreading Smiles contest service learning grant application for Ross.
I'll move for approval.
Okay.
I second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Tammy. All in favor? 4-0. And new business curriculum and instruction. Mike?
Board of Education in Allen, Cunningham, thank you for giving us this opportunity to report on this year's middle school music festival. Before I get started, though, I wanted to talk on behalf of the music programs in USD 443. I've been in administration for 38 years and started young, so don't equate that to my age. And I've not been around a program as solid as this one. That includes vocal, which you saw here today, orchestra, and also our band programs. We have a tradition here to raise kids to go to the high school to really perform and do an outstanding job. Not only that, but there's a lot of pride that goes behind each student as they take their instrument or they perform in front of others. And that pride is built, hopefully, and carried on through life and the enjoyment of music. So I do want to say how much I appreciate the hard work, the dedication that all of our music teachers put into. They work extra hours, they spend extra time preparing for concerts, preparing for marching, and they do it all with a smile, which contributes a great attitude by them. But we are very fortunate to have the quality of people throughout our school district that really enjoy children and enjoy their job and enjoy music. So that is definitely has been recognizable for me as a principal at Dodge City Middle School and throughout the system for my almost going on 10 years now. So I do want to thank you for giving me this time to present. I would like to introduce you to Holly Ann Sewell, who is our Director of Music there at Dodge City Middle School. And she's going to give you an update to the update that we have on, we had a few changes on our line items in a budget. But just before she gets started, I want to say this. The Music Festival is not about making money. The Music Festival is about having an opportunity for kids to perform, to do solos, to participate in a way that they can get judged and evaluated on their music and their performance. So it's not our goal to make money. It is our goal to break even, which we did do that. And but it is important for everyone to understand it is not a money-making issue. So she will go through those line items with you. I'd like for you to introduce to you Holly Ann Sewell.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Hi, like he said, I'm Holly Ann Sewell. I'm a band director at DCMS, and I was this year's festival manager for our middle school WAC Music Festival. In the minutes, we have kind of a breakdown of the number of students that we had attend, the number of large ensembles, solos, small ensembles. We did have everything from one piano solo to vocals, strings, and every instrument in the band world that you could think of. Planning began over a year ago after Comanche hosted. The DCMS music staff got together, talked about the success that they had and what we felt could go better. As with any festival that you host, especially the first time, there's always improvement. So we met a year ago, April, to start talking about that. As the music department, we decided to adjust some of the entry fees. Like Mr. King said, we weren't in it to make money. We wanted to provide this opportunity for kids in Western Kansas to have a quality music festival, and there aren't many options out here. La Crosse was kind of the only other one, and we had definitely outgrown that. So we lowered some of the fees. And then our booster club agreed to be in charge of the concessions and the cafeteria, which was a huge weight off of the music staff's shoulders and gave them an opportunity to raise some funds. And I haven't seen a final dollar number for them, but I'm pretty sure it went really well from what I understood. We had judges from local music teachers that work in the district, all the way from Pratt, Salina, Buhler, Scott City. We had 6 for band, 2 for orchestra, and 5 for choir. Because of the growth of the festival, we actually hired Kelly Nedler and Kaylee Harris about 2 weeks before festival because we had so many entries in choir. We had to add more festivals otherwise, or more judges, otherwise we would have been there till probably 10 p.m. Overall, it was a very successful day. Kids from all districts, all levels performed very well. Judges had very good comments to say about the student performances. For the most part, we had good behavior, very minor issues, and everyone lived, so that was a success in my book. And then the DCMS staff was wonderful. Smiles all day. Some of them stayed extra, worked their tails off. We got many, many compliments from other districts about our staff and how wonderful they were. And even though it was a successful day, there were definitely things that if we get a chance to host again that we want to do better. Some of our auditorium schedule with the large groups, I did not plan enough time. So that's one of those things that we're going to make that run a little bit smoother. Finding a way to get updated contact information for all of the local and area music schools. It was sending emails to some teachers that 2 months later, we're like, I don't teach there anymore. So finding a way to get that information. And then, like Mr. King said, our updated financials on the sheet that was in the minutes, there were a couple typos and just a couple things that hadn't been finalized yet. So now that we have closer numbers, our entry fees were $3,070. Our expenditures were $2,723.20. So that makes our balance afterwards of $346.80. And then because we weren't sure exactly how much Comanche had made the year before and what our slightly lowered entry fees were going to do, we asked for 20% of the booster concessions just to make sure that we would be covered. And so after that 20%, our total is $843.80. And that will all go back to DCMS students in the music department. Either we've talked about polos, we've talked about some different books that we can get them for just different opportunities for learning. So, any questions?
Yeah, I may have missed this in the information, so if I did, I apologize. But who participated? What communities?
We had Dodge City Middle School, Comanche Middle School, Cimarron, Liberal, both Garden schools, Meade, Hayes, what was the other one? I'm missing one more, a smaller one.
Mineola?
No, they did not come. Their band director judged for us, though.
Oh, okay. But that's okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get an idea. Thank you.
All of the
I was
WAC
curious
schools, and then a couple of the smaller ones that aren't in the league, but are close
Okay,
by.
excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Any others? Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly Ann. Thanks for all your work. Okay, next up, the April 26th
We
staff.
also have a short video we wanted to show you. And I want to say also to you that we appreciate that Comanche took the lead and kind of paved the way for the music festival because they really did a lot of the front work for us, and we just picked up from them what they did the previous year. And I don't know if you know the reason why we have the festival here now is because we outgrew the other festival that we were at, and it just was not enough space for larger schools to attend. So that's why Mark and his staff decided to move forward with the music festival in a larger district. Okay.
That's great.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Okay, now I think we're ready for the Staff Development Day.
Good evening. On April 26th, we're going to have our last and final Staff Development Day of the school year. We will be including the pre-K students through 8th grade. High school will not be joining us this time because they have the additional late start days, and so those that extra day goes into their late starts. So we're going to mainly be at Comanche Middle School. We're going to have a day similar to the day that we did in October. In October, we had facilitated topics in the morning and then the Ed Camp in the afternoon. This time, we're going to do it a little bit different, where we offer facilitated topics all day for 6 different rooms or 6 different sessions each hour. And then opposite of that, then we'll run with the Ed Camp theme all day as well. So our teachers, those who prefer a more traditional route, can choose the facilitated topics and go in and learn a little bit about a topic and then be able to discuss it. And the ones who are a little bit more interested in that Ed Camp feel with a little bit more authentic topic generation, then they'll be able to do Ed Camp all day. So they can do part day facilitated, part day Ed Camp, or choose either one all day long. We're also going to have a Let's Move Kansas piece that's going to be held at Lynn Elementary, and teachers can choose to go to that as well. That's kind of really focused on movement in the classroom, and it'll bring in the standards and also touch on some of the social emotional standards. And so that's going to be a neat opportunity for teachers to participate in as well. The topics are going to range. They're going to mainly focus on technology, but we're also bringing in, again, some social emotional pieces. Southwest Plains is going to provide 3 facilitators to help with those too. And teachers have been asked to submit topics, and we've gathered those all on the Google Drive. And then if there was a high interest, they could go in and increase the number and that kind of stuff. So we've gone in on the facilitated topics based on what the teachers have given us and chosen those. The Ed Camp morning is going to be set based on the topics that they submitted. Just in a sense of organization, that's going to be easier. And then the afternoon, based on what they've experienced in the morning, they'll get to set the Ed Camp topics for the afternoon. So we think we're going to offer quite a few options. Again, teachers and principals and coaches, and then the Southwest Plains people are going to help facilitate that. So it's kind of a neat opportunity, again, for our teachers to learn from other teachers and get a chance to choose the topics that they're interested in and that they want to learn more about. So any questions about the Staff Development Day?
That sounds good.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. I think you get me for the next one, too.
I think so, too. Yes, the Head Start expansion.
Yes. Last summer, we brought to you and asked permission to apply for dosage and duration grant. And our Head Start program provided enough days in the school year, but we were providing all of our days as part-day options. And one of the things that Head Start was willing and interested in funding was moving some of our slots into full day. So we applied for that last summer. In late fall, we got word that we received the grant, and we were going to give money for operations to increase the number of teachers, but then also to help with construction. Well, in that process, they adopted new Head Start standards. And so some of the things that we were working with and guiding us in the summer and fall now changed around December time. And so we're working with our regional office, and there's some additional pieces to the grant now. And one of the things that is part of that Head Start requirement is making sure that the board is aware of it and then approves that. So I'll mention some of the pieces, but then if you have questions, make sure you ask. I sent you some of that information, and we can review. I've got the standard book ready to go and to go from, but I don't want to overdo it. But if you have questions, make sure you ask. So some of the main pieces is that we have to do an appraisal. So we've contacted a real estate agent, and they went out and are trying to appraise what the property. Right now, it's the Sunnyside property, what that would be worth.
Amy, you might remind him, not only is it at Sunnyside, it was for approximately $550,000 or $60,000 worth of construction costs. Is that?
Oh, that's,
Okay.
yeah.
That way they might remember what the project was itself, was to turn some classrooms we'll not be using at Sunnyside.
Yeah, we were going to do some construction, add a bathroom in the classrooms, and add a little bit, because Head Start requires a certain 35 square foot per child type of a thing. So we were going to just do some renovation to the Sunnyside building for 3 additional full-day classrooms at Sunnyside. So as part of that, because they were giving us money for those construction pieces, then that's where we had to do some of the additional steps. So the appraisal piece was something new. We also have to have an environmental impact study, and just to describe the environmental conditions of the proposed facility. We also had to go in and prove that the renovations to an existing building was more cost efficient than building new. And so when you're talking about just straight classrooms, that's one thing, but when you look at the food service pieces and space for gym or activity and that kind of stuff, of course, doing a renovation to an existing building is a lot more cost effective. There's a federal interest and disposition requirements, and that's one thing that I know Bill's office, and he can answer questions about that if you're interested, has done a lot of work in. I mean, ultimately, if the federal government is giving money, then now they have an interest in the building. Worst case scenario is they defund Head Start, and now we're going to probably have to pay back money they gave to some of the renovations. We don't see that happening, but when they have a federal interest piece, they're now kind of part of us. Now they have a federal interest in the Bright Beginnings building, but that's kind of different than what we've done before with one of the elementary sites.
What would be some reasons that funding going back would maybe happen? Can you answer that, Bill?
Government completely falls apart.
No, I mean,
going to riot?
no, seriously.
No.
I mean, in seriousness.
Go for it.
The question we raised was, if you're aware, we have a new administration. The new administration, for example, is talking about cuts in Title II. They're talking about cuts in College World of SEOG grants. They're talking about cutting work study. If the administration determines that Head Start is not the way they want to go, my question to Ken Strobel was, what happens? You know, not that we don't want to have the program, but there's no more money to have the program, or they're going to come back and ask for $530,000 or $600,000 back from us. And I think the reality is, Ken's best answer is, we don't think that's going to happen, but it could happen. But the requirement of this is that the board has to be aware that that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we have a responsibility that you as board members understand if you accept this grant and we take this money. They do have a federal interest, and if things go that direction, they may come back and knock on our door and say, you owe the money back.
Forever?
We can't find anything where if there's any appreciation or not. Now, am I going to say that's going to happen that way? I'm not going to say. I have not been able to find anything, nor has Ken, that says it's depreciated out or something. Now, the reality is we think it's unlikely, but we want the board to be fully aware as we go forward. That is a possibility at some point. Did I say that right, Alan?
Yes, we're basically adding, what we're doing is basically adding a 10-foot addition with, including a restroom, onto each of 3 or 4 classrooms.
4 classrooms.
So they're getting less than 25% of the space in these classrooms is going to be from this new money. So, in the worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario is they'd come back and say, we need you to buy back that building, that portion that you added with our money, we need you to buy it back from us. So the worst thing that could happen would be $500,000 and something that we need to pay. But we have purchased modular buildings with Head Start money in the past. We actually had 2 of them at Sunnyside.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got ready to get rid of them, many years ago, we started using them for other things. They depreciated those out to the point they were gone. They weren't worth anything.
Yeah.
I don't remember how we got the modular building that was up on the north campus, but I think maybe Head Start paid for that, some of that too.
Yeah,
I don't
I don't know.
remember. It's before
I don't
your
know,
time
yeah.
as well. But,
Ultimately, we don't anticipate any of this to be a problem. We don't anticipate Head Start to go away. It's got bipartisan support. It's been around for a long time. But it's a possibility, and with the federal interest piece as part of that, that standard, it's something that we have to make sure that you're aware of.
Okay, thank you.
We need to make sure the minutes show that we've discussed that, the board is aware, when they accept the grant, you're aware there is a federal interest.
those are actually listed on the application form that they're approving, those
Yeah.
5 conditions.
And then the procurement piece just is basically, before we do anything, not only do we have to come to you, of course, for approval, according to the way we run things with the school district, but we have to take it to the regional office for their approval as well. So every step along the way, they either have to approve what we approve or give us permission to take it to you. So, questions there?
It's basically 5 new steps in the bureaucracy, is what it amounts to.
Okay. And a pretty new standard book. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, so that last, that approval is an action item, so. Motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Tracy and a second by Ryan. All in favor? 4-0. Okay, next up, we have the approval of the 2018-19 calendar.
Okay, if you look in your agenda on pages 36 and 37, Yvonne is actually out today. She's still recovering. So I told her I'd be glad to cover this part for her, unless she snuck in back there somewhere that I didn't see. According to the negotiated agreement, the district has a calendar committee that's made up of representatives as detailed in the negotiated agreement. Options are presented to the staff to vote on a calendar for 2 years in the future. So we're talking about the 2018-19 academic calendar. 3 options were presented for a vote. There were a total of 781 votes cast. That compares to about 650 2 years ago and 680 last year. So 781 this year, with 53% of the votes cast going for option A. I don't know if you want to pop that up there in case they need to see them. I think you've got copies in your agenda. But if people in the audience remember seeing this, option A is a fairly traditional calendar. And that was the one that received almost twice as many votes as either one of the other 2. So while there's no cost associated with this calendar committee's work, they request that the board approve option A as the 2018-19 academic calendar.
Okay. I make a motion for approval.
Second. Great. Motion by Tammy and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 4-0. And is the staffing request yours too?
Mine too, yes. Dr. Buckner is on her way to, Dr. Nance is on her way to Oklahoma State University. In case you didn't know, she was married over spring break, so she has a new last name. Pages 38 and 39. Each year, typically around the 1st of February, we actually put it off some this year because we hoped to have some idea of what the legislature might do for school funding and school budgets for this next year. But typically, we ask our staff to give us projections for their staffing needs, in particular increased staffing for the coming school year. This year was no different. We solicited those needs from among the staff, reviewed them at the cabinet level, and are presenting to you tonight. I believe it's 4 or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 added positions for the 2017-18 school year. One of them, the addition at Sewell Elementary School, is something you're familiar with. We've been adding a classroom of a grade level there every year since it became an elementary school. So this year we'll be adding a 4th grade position to take care of 3 3rd grades going into 2 4th grades. And then next year we'll have it all finished off, hopefully with 5th grade, until we turn it into a 4-section school and we start all over. That position would be paid from the general fund budget. Dodge City High School is requesting a career counselor. It is a grant-funded position for the first year and then it comes down to 50% district, and then 25% or 50% grant, and then 25% grant in successive years. This is we all agree this is a very needed position because of the focus of our state and the Board of Education going on career readiness for high school students and individual plans of study. Again, it's grant funded for the most part for the first year, and then after that it's graduated down. Then there are 2 grant-funded positions for Head Start, as we are going to plan to open these full-day classrooms where a teacher right now has been able to handle 2 half-day sessions of kids. When we go to full days, it's going to require a couple more teachers there. Budget is available in the Head Start Bright Beginnings budgets to cover that position. And then the business office is requesting the possibility of adding a staff person there to help deal with the activity accounts at our various schools throughout the year. We're not sure this position is going to be needed, but based on what we do at the end of the year with audits and those kinds of things, we're asking the board for permission to fill it if we see there's a need. And really, we'll bring it back to you for sure and let you know if we think there is a need, but we'd like for you to give us approval to fill that if we perceive there's going to be a need between now and the end of school for next school year. And Bill, I don't know if you have any comments about that one or not.
I don't like to add positions when we've got budget issues at the state level and also down to our district. On the other hand, we also want to make sure that we meet all the regulations and we have the controls that we need to have to manage all the finances of the district. So we're looking at options. We believe the software we currently have for the activities account can do more than it has done in the past. We're looking at ways to implement that, maybe streamline it in some ways. We've been working with the high school and we will work with other buildings to try to accomplish that. We've also looked at possibly using our other Alio software, but that's kind of an ongoing discussion. We hope to have a decision by the end of this month. If there's a way we can meet the need without the position, we will not have the position. But we would just, on the other hand, I didn't want to come back in the middle of the year, in the middle of the budget cycle, because this is when we normally approve these things. So that's kind of where we are.
So I'd ask your approval for the added positions that we have in your agenda.
I'll move.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Ryan and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 4-0. Alan, before we move on, I know that we're increasing some of the elementary schools to 4-section. And I am guessing we are going to have to look at assistant principals in those schools, or what are thoughts on that?
The way the handbook is right now, Administrative Policy and Procedures Handbook, is if a school becomes a 4-section, you do add an assistant principalship. Now, we don't anticipate those schools becoming 4 sections
right away,
like from this year to next year.
Right.
It probably will be some kind of a graduated thing, and a lot of it depends on what the state does with finance.
Mm-hmm.
Did an interview today with Newsweek, or Ed Week, excuse me, and one of their questions was, we understand your building, where are you going to get the money to hire the teachers to go in those classrooms? And I told them that's a very good question. It's all going to come down to the state as to whether or not we do that, or we just put more kids in the existing classrooms we have. But yes, we will, hopefully by the time we have those classrooms open and ready to go, we'll begin putting kids in some of them, we'll be able to have some additional funds from the state to pay for it. Right now, we have 200 more students than what we had the last time we got a budget increase. Well, if they will just fund those 200 students, that would buy several teachers. Mm-hmm. And we anticipate, as we've always done, our growth in students has always paid for the added positions.
Mm-hmm.
This is one that hasn't or isn't yet, because we don't know what our funding is going to be for next year.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. All right, Bill, go ahead.
Thank you. Madam Chairperson and members of the board, Mr. Cunningham, Superintendent, I come this evening, this is really the last large piece of our bond project to approve guaranteed max price. The items still outstanding are the safety items that we're going to use, the security items that we're going to do district-wide. Those will be coming to you later, as will some of the furniture bids will be coming to you at a later date. But basically this evening, I'm happy to report to you that we do have a guaranteed max price for the projects at Dodge City Middle School
in the amount of $15,427,143. This continues to keep the project basically on budget and on time. And we're very grateful for Hutton Construction, Tom Montgomery, and GLMV. And also I will add my staff, Chris Myers, James Trombley. They've done a great job of managing to this point. It looks like we're kind of where we need to be. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. If you want me to review the project, be happy to, but I think you're pretty well aware we're adding a gymnasium, classrooms, adding to the cafeteria, taking care of business.
Move to approve.
A second.
All right. Motion by Ryan, second by Tammy. All in favor? 4-0.
Okay. The next item on the agenda tonight, and please forgive me if I miss anything here, we do have an approval item for the bid roof at Northwest Elementary. The one thing I'd mention on this, we only received one bid, and that, of course, is always somewhat of a concern to us as a board and as a district. We have kind of wondered if we put this out again, maybe we could get more competition. We've had a real problem getting bids with SBS systems on them, which we think is the roof system of choice for our district. We think it works best, but we've been encouraged that there might be another option out there. So while we are recommending approval of this, if the board would like us to, we'd be more than happy to take this out. We already have the bids and specifications. It's really a very incidental cost to go out for a second look at this and see if we can get a little more competition in this bid. So
I was going to ask if we've got any other bids, so I'm not opposed to
I think it'd be a
waiting
good idea.
and just seeing
Yeah.
if something else comes in.
Yeah, I think it,
Is that, what, is
What
it?
we really have to
would I
do
need
is,
to make a vote
we
on
have
that?
to reject
reject
bids,
bid.
bid or bids that were submitted and direct administration to rebid the project.
I'll make a motion that we reject the current bids and reopen it for bidding again.
Okay. Second.
And do we vote on?
Yeah.
No, okay. We have a motion by Tracy and a second by Ryan. All in favor?
okay, thank you. We will.
And we, just for the record, we would like you to go and submit to get new bids.
Yes, and we will look at both SBS and TPO on that, but again, in district standard, we feel that SBS has served us best, but we're going to look at the price and comparisons at that point, and the board will have that information.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay. Next item, we call these change orders in the system, and I've been through this, and I hope I've
We've got-
thoroughly
We got one before that on
Oh.
certificate substantial completion.
Oh, okay. Did I miss? I'm sorry. I had 2 pages with folded downs right together. As we said, the project, and I'm very proud of the way Hutton and Tom and our group have put this together. We were aware if we tried to put all these projects out at one time, we would basically overwhelm the ability to recruit subcontractors, and the price would go up significantly. So we have kind of started, we started with some smaller projects, we've added some. We think we've kept pretty competitive pricing in all these projects. So this evening, though, we are happy to say that we have certificates of substantial completion for Beeson, Lynn, and Will Rhodes Garden. And basically, we're just asking the board to approve those this evening. What that means is that's when the warranty period starts for the buildings. There are some items that are a year, there are some items that are more depending on equipment and so forth. But I just wanted to inform the board and give you this opportunity to approve these 3 as, quote, done projects. We feel pretty good about that.
Great.
Okay, I make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Motion by Tammy, second by Tracy. All in favor? 4-0.
I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself here.
You're fine.
This next one, the way it's recorded in the books and the contracts, it's considered a change order. It's actually a budget transfer because when we approve projects like this, we give a certain amount of the budget to the contractor when we approve the guaranteed max price, which we did on a new building this evening. But Tom Montgomery also has the various things like furniture, fixtures, and so forth in his budget. And basically, this is moving it out of Tom's budget and his control into the contractor now that we have bids on these items. So basically, if you look at this, it's nothing that wasn't planned. It's not like we've changed the project significantly or anything. It's just moving the things for accounting purposes. So when my auditors come in and they see the total amount of the contract, they know the board's been informed. All these items are accounted for, and it just is really a budgetary issue. But we do consider it a change order. It's really a transfer of money.
Okay, I make a motion for approval.
Motion by Tammy, second by Tracy. All in favor? 4-0.
Okay. The next item is one that Miller Elementary, we have struggled with Miller Elementary, sir, for several years now. We thought we had it all fixed when we remodeled the classrooms. As you remember, at the south end of the building, we moved, there had been kind of a hodgepodge done over the years. We put really 3 good kindergarten rooms at the end of that building and did a good job. And we had some plumbing issues at that time. We scoped the pipes. We thought we were done. Well, we had another leak, and the leak was not pleasant. It kind of put some sewage in one of the tunnels under Miller, and we got that taken care of. We called the engineers in, and as a result of that, basically, they recommended that we replace all of the sewer pipe in the original building at Miller Elementary. And part of that sewer pipe, and it wasn't quite clear in his letter, but I do have a letter clarifying that that also includes one of the restrooms where some of these problems have been included. So our recommendation this evening, I do not have pricing to approve, but I do want to inform the board that our intent is to replace the original sewer piping in Miller Elementary, and we're basically going to gut a restroom down there, and we're going to make improvements in it and bring it up to current standards. It currently doesn't meet ADA. We're also going to put a family restroom in there, which that may take care of issues if we have gender identity issues. We're trying to do that any place we put restrooms. We're also going to put a shower in that room. We do have times, from time to time, we'll have a student who soils themselves, and that'll give us a place to take care of those kind of situations. I've talked to the principal of the building. I think she's quite excited about this improvement. It will be an additional cost. It'll be some dollars, but we can find those dollars in capital outlay. But we think it makes much better sense to take care of these now. The sewer line will be going, instead of into the old system, it will actually go into the new system where we're adding onto that building. So everything will be new and will be taken care of hopefully for the next 60, 70 years. So that's kind of the reason we're bringing this. But this evening, I guess what we're asking is information. If there's any discussion, we just wanted to be sure that we were transparent with the board on this issue.
Well, in their recommendation letter, it states that it's, from 1949, about almost 70 years old, so it would make sense to change this out. But so my question, though, is then, do we know if we have these same kind of issues in some of our other buildings that might be similar in age that we need to take
I can't
a look
say
at?
that we don't. I can say that we haven't experienced the problems. Miller has been kind of this has been a place we've had some issues. But no, I can't say that, Ryan, I can't say it.
So would this be something we want to look into before we get too far down the road on a lot of the construction we're presently doing? Or is this just kind of a
we can
case by case? And maybe nothing's wrong with the other ones. I was just curious. Or would this be a case by case basis? We just kind of deal with it as it comes up, I guess.
We've done quite a bit of work at Dodge City Middle School. It's getting to an age there may be issues there. I'm thinking Central Elementary. I'm trying to think of the tunnel system under Central. One of the problems with Miller is the tunnel is small enough. Even if there was nothing in the tunnel, I don't think I could fit through the tunnel. Well, by the time you've put, the sewer line, the water line, and there's also still old, steam lines through that building, you can't get a human being through it to fix anything. Some of our other buildings may have larger tunnels. If you want us to, we could sure take a look. I can ask the engineers to consider Central and Dodge City Middle School and just ask if there's anything else.
It's worth checking.
Just at least check it into.
You sparked my interest when you said you wanted to add a shower.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be a weird ask, but what is the potential of adding more than one shower? And the reason I asked that, just recently we evacuated people in the community to school-owned facilities. And as large as our community is, the Civic Center is a great option, but you can't fit that many people in it. But maybe if we are going to provide a shower, if that became a shelter for short-term or long-term for our community, especially that heavy populated area, I know that might increase the expense quite a bit, but
I'll be honest, I don't know where I'd put it in with this particular thing, but let us take a look at it and see. We did have conversations, and that was one of the conversations we had. If we were doing a longer-term evacuation, should we be using the high school and the middle schools, because those do have shower rooms in them, that they would be available. Or many of our elementary schools, we may have a shower in the nurses, area or something like that. It's just much more limited, but we could sure look at that.
is there any of the newer construction elementary schools in the last 20 years have any shower facilities?
We've put some in the nurse's office, I believe.
Yeah, and Sewell has a special education room. It's Greg here. Beeson does when we built some special needs classrooms, We included showers and washers and dryers and those kind of things.
If Beeson does, then Lynn probably does, right?
Beeson and Lynn probably both do. I know Sewell does, or did have. And those were the 95 schools that were built in 95.
Yeah.
All dead and right beginnings, they do have showers still in the basement.
What do you guys think? I mean, it might be worth just looking into. That way, I guess we just know, I mean, we're doing all this construction now, and maybe the two have nothing to do with one another, I don't know. But if everything's great, which we hope for, awesome. And then if not, I mean.
Then we can start
I
planning
mean, we can
for
start
it.
planning on what we
Right.
need to do.
That makes sense.
Phase,
Yeah,
yeah, phases, yeah.
I think it makes sense.
I believe that's everything I had. Thank you all this evening.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Cunningham?
I'll make, if you can pop that calendar up there, I'll make it as short, sweet, and to the point as I can. But if you've got questions, don't hesitate to ask. As a result of last year's negotiations with Dodge City NEA, you might remember that we have been operating on a memorandum of understanding for us to have late start days in grades K through 8. High school's on a whole different arrangement. As a result of last year's negotiations, we agreed to form a task force this year to look at the use, the purpose, use, and options for late start days. As a result, the task force made up of equal numbers of teachers and administrative staff have met and are recommending a change. There are some real advantages instructionally in getting all your staff involved to having a late start day, because you're not losing a bunch of your folks to coaching and to other activities after school. If you remember, when we started this several years ago, we had 13 or 14 built in the school year. A year or 2 years ago, the elementaries and middle schools went down to 8, so we had half as many. We're recommending that this next year we go down to 4, and in the place of those days, we have a couple options. If you've had elementary kids recently, you might remember, Ryan, you'll know this, that on the days, we have parent-teacher conferences twice a year at middle school and elementaries. On the Thursday of parent-teacher conferences, the kids only go to school like 3 or 3.5 hours. And then the afternoon is parent-teacher conferences into the evening. We're recommending that the students might not go to school at all that day, and the morning be used for staff development activities with the afternoon parent-teacher conferences as normal. So rather than the kids coming to school for 3.5 hours and then going home, they just wouldn't come at all. That would take the place of several of those late start days, the equivalent amount of time. The other option we'd like to look at, and it really doesn't work for this coming school year, but it would work subsequent to that, would be the days that we have a 2-hour early dismissal prior to holidays. You remember we do that for Thanksgiving and we do it for Easter. The one at Christmas is a whole nother matter, but for the one Thanksgiving and Easter, we have a 2-hour early dismissal for students and staff with school in the morning. We would recommend, again, to make up the additional time from the late start days, that on the years where a Easter vacation doesn't butt right up against spring break or one of the other breaks in the school year, that we would use that day also and have 4.5 hours of staff development time and still have the staff a 2-hour early dismissal, which is in their contract. So we would be going, and in the process of this, we'd eliminate one of the full day in services during the school year. So what we're looking at, and it's going to, you might be able to see it in your book better than any place else, but on the day before parent-teacher conferences in October, that Thursday, there would be no school on Thursday for students, staff development for virtually half a day, and parent-teacher conferences for the other half. That's in October and in March. On then the day before Thanksgiving, the students would not be in school at all. We'd have 4 hours of staff development, 4.5 roughly, and then teachers would be dismissed 2 hours early to begin the holiday. The same thing typically would happen down at Easter, but if you look at the calendar for this coming school year, we have parent-teacher conferences on the Thursday and Friday or the Wednesday and Thursday right after spring break, and Easter this next year is immediately the next week. Where a year from now, it's not till sometime later in April. So we would recommend the years when it butts right up against either spring break or a parent-teacher conference time, we don't do it on that day. We just have school as usual, and which would probably be the case for next year. In essence, we end up losing a little bit of instructional time because the swap out for the late start days are not exactly the same amount of time. We would still end up with, I believe, and I've got it, there is something wrong on this, the calendars you have, like we caught it today. But we still end up with between 3 and 4 snow days built into our calendar, or inclement weather days. And we think by doing this, it's going to give parents and students, they would actually end up having either a 3-day or a 4-day weekend on these days, and make it easier for them to make arrangements for their families rather than go to school for 3 hours and then go home or be out of school 2 hours early. So what we're recommending is that we have fewer late start days, and that we offer the day before Thanksgiving and Easter and the Thursday of elementary and middle school parent-teacher conferences, those mornings would be staff development time in lieu of student time. Did I confuse you completely?
No.
This was the consensus. We had, I think, of 13 or 14, 12 or 14 member task force, and it was the consensus of the group that this would be something they would like to try.
The teachers thought that if they chose days that were already impacted by early releases, that day was already not a typical instructional day, that if they put the staff development on that reduced the number of impact days later on. And so that if they're in school all day long for more days versus the late start piece where you have to adjust, or even on an early release such as the day before the holidays or the conference days, you still have to adjust the schedule, and it kind of throws off the kids. They thought, we're already going to pick a day that's already going to be changed, let's just put it there.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it's a great idea.
I do too. I like it.
So we are recommending that you would approve that change.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Tammy. All in favor? 4-0.
Okay, and the other one is just information. Just so happened this year, we've had a lot of crises in our district, and it's one of those things that you hope you never have to live through again. But I couldn't be prouder of the staff in our school district for how they responded, not only to the deaths of students and the death of staff, family members, and the fires we had, and all the other things that seemed like has happened in the last 2 months. Our staff, and if I started listing the departments or the people by name, I know I'd leave some folks out. But we had some exceptional displays of compassion and just hard work and volunteerism on behalf of the students and the staff and the parents in our schools. And I think it was just worthy of mentioning and worthy of commendation to say thank you to all the folks who did it over and above to deal with some of the things this district's faced in the last couple months.
Very impressive.
Okay.
Yep.
That's it.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep. We have great people, and it's a pleasure to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, Board of Education member district responsibilities. The Park and Rec Advisory Board, Barb is on that, but she let me know that they did not meet because they did not have a quorum. So we go next to Bright Beginnings and Head Start. Tracy?
Obviously, Bright Beginnings is pretty excited about adding full-day services, and I know that's probably going to get some parents pretty excited to get their kids into the full-day classrooms. They're also doing some work study stuff and then working with one of the local daycare providers to add on some services as well. So, I mean, our last meeting that we had, the meeting was full. All the parents were engaged, some really lively conversations, so it was really refreshing.
Very good. Awesome, thank you. Special education, did we have,
Jeff wasn't able to attend. I attended. It was usual and customary business, nothing out of the ordinary.
okay. And legislative?
I mean, no, I don't have a report. I mean, I know there's stuff going on. I just don't have anything definitive.
Yeah.
Definitive, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
That-
I'd
Ally, you got
encourage you to
anything?
keep up with your
Yeah.
KASB newsletter, news briefs, and any emails they send, because we've fired off several of us have fired off some written testimony in the last week or two. We sent some in again last Friday. House Bill 2410 on the funding formula. We're to the point, I think, almost any formula will work if we'll just fund it. You know, we can make a bunch of stuff work if we just know what it is and have the money to make it work with, so.
And Schools for Fair Funding is sending us emails too about when to contact
Okay.
legislators and things like that, so.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Okay, capital outlay, we don't really have anything, no.
No update on that.
And calendar committee, we just got done with that. We've
Carry
got, Brian is scheduled to review bills for the April 10th meeting. We're ready for executive session for the discussion of negotiations in order to protect the public interest by negotiating a fair and equitable contract and for personnel matters.
We also need to add this evening, discussion about the acquisition of real property.
Okay. So what do we need to start with?
I'd like to start with the real property and ask Mr. Hammond to stay for that.
Okay.
It shouldn't take but just a few minutes, and then we'll go on to the personnel.
And for the personnel one, we'll need,
Ms. Feist, and I think me, and that's probably it at this point. For the acquisition of real property, Mr. Hammond and myself, and then negotiations, I think I'll just handle that one. That way you can get on to your next appointment, okay?
okay.
And how many minutes total?
15 minutes, you think? I think 15 minutes total.
Okay, I make a motion for executive session for 15 minutes.
Second.
Motion by Tammy and a second by Ryan. Thank you. All in favor?